You're listening to the Cryptid Crew podcast. I'm your host, Mark Childers. Before we get started, if you've had an encounter or an experience or just something unexplained, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening to the Cryptid Crew podcast. On this episode, I would like to welcome author, veteran Bigfoot researcher, and founder of East Tennessee Bigfoot Research, Matt Seeber. Matt, welcome to the Cryptid Crew podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Glad you had me on here tonight.
Yes, excited to have you on, and looking forward to this episode as well. And I believe Matt and I met at the Western North Carolina Bigfoot Festival. I believe, is that right?
Yeah. This past season, yeah.
Yeah, in Marion, and that was a large turnout.
Yeah, I don't know how big they get out in the Pacific Northwest, but this thing in North Carolina is huge.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah, we participated in one in the Pacific Northwest back in June, and the turnout was not quite like that.
Right.
Of course, the weather had a little bit of impact, I believe. It rained most of the day, so.
Okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, it was a good festival as well. But I tell you what, let's just dive into this if you don't mind, and Matt, if you can, just tell us what got you interested in Bigfoot research.
Well, the research stuff started a little bit later on in my life, but I'd always had an interest ever since I was a kid. The Mysterious Monsters by Peter Graves came on TV in the 70s, and it just blew my mind. But I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought until later on in life, till 2005, when my then 15-year-old son had an encounter in our backyard in Roane County of Tennessee. So it was pretty interesting. He was out doing a chore for me in the middle of the night because it was summer and kids like to stay up all night and play video games and sleep all day. So I just told him, I said, I don't care when you get it done, just get it done. He was shoveling sand out of the back of my truck. And as he was doing that, this being approached him and was watching him from behind the bird feeder. And he thought it might have been someone he knew. And he grabbed the shovel, came out of his truck. And as he walked toward the being behind the bird feeder, it turned and jogged away, kind of slow, but in a different kind of run that he would have explained. He said it was loping, whatever. Now it's kind of like a bounce, kind of like when it ran. And when it ran under the security light, he could see it was covered with long black hair. And he described it as being very beautiful, flowing, clean, shiny black hair. It wasn't what a lot of people claim to see out in the woods when they experience one of these beings. They're always dirty, matted, that kind of thing. But he said this thing was very beautiful, very, very lean and muscular. And we estimated after the next day, after we talked about it, that it was probably around 7 feet tall, because the bird feeder was one of those old type of had a roof, and it was on a pole, and the top of the roof of that bird feeder was right at 6 feet, and this being's head was all the way above it. It was a good foot above it, so it was large. He didn't say it was lanky. He said it was. He described it like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It looked like a bodybuilder. So, and from that point on, I got involved, and doors started opening for me as far as media coverage is concerned in my area of East Tennessee, and people started contacting me. People started calling me on the phone and hitting my email address and everything, and I just here I am. I'm in it, and I've been in it for 20 years.
Let me ask you this. How far away was the creature when your son saw it from him?
I would estimate less than 15 feet. Now, of course, it was dark, and he He didn't get a good look. Of course, he didn't see his face because where he was standing, it was in the dark away from the security light. There was a tree between the security light and him. But when it ran into the security light, he could see it very well. He mentioned it had grayish skin under the hair. So, but yeah, he was roughly 15 feet away.
Very close.
Yeah.
Extremely close. Did it make any noise? Did he say anything about vocalizations or anything
No,
like that?
nothing like that at all.
Or smell?
No smell. Nothing like that. He didn't, and nothing like that registered with him. It was just the way it ran away and the way it looked as it was running.
And how long ago did that happen?
It was June of 2005.
Okay. So 20 years ago. So that
Yeah.
lit the fire for you,
That
I'm
that
assuming.
lit my fire. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us,
And it's funny.
uh
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, man.
It's funny that you mentioned the fire being lit. I'll go ahead and tell everyone now that I have not actually witnessed one of these beings. I have heard things and I've experienced a few things, but I have not seen with my eyes. But of course, my son, my sister and her entire family, my ex sister in law, and my mother all have encountered these beings. So here I am. I'm the one looking for them, and everybody else just kind of let it go.
Yes, the curiosity and the mystery of it has got you pulled in.
Yeah, I can't get away from it. I just can't.
And, and your family's encounters, are they in East Tennessee as well?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
They were all probably within 3 to 4 miles of each other. Oh, maybe let's go 10. There was one that was my sister's sighting was probably 10 miles from where I lived at the time, but the other ones were about less right at 5. So I'd say a 20-mile radius or 10-mile radius. So,
That area is extremely active, and I know you know that.
mm, yeah, it's, I live in I still live in the Tri-County area. They call it the Tri-County area, and they have for years around here. It's, Anderson County, Morgan County, and Roane County in East Tennessee. There's a lot of stuff goes on right here, a lot of towns, and everybody kinda interacts within these 3 counties because of the mountains and everything. It's not super heavy mountainous, it's really nice, more rolling hills and then some high peaks here and there. But, that's where most of my sightings come from because I'm not well known everywhere, so I take what I can get, of course, and a lot of people know me around here, so they'll talk to me about things, and then there's a 4 by 4 I won't call it an adventure park, but it's a large piece of property, on some mountainsides really close to here where they ride four-wheelers and side-by-sides. It's a piece of private property. They've turned it into, an excursion kinda place for these side-by-sides and four-wheelers and motorcycles, and, I occasionally get some things from there as well.
Right. That I know most listeners will know the geography of that area, but if you can, for the ones that don't know, tell us about the particular area you live in and the terrain.
Okay. Well, of course, east of me is the Great Smoky Mountains. Of course, they're huge. To the north of me, there's some pretty high mountains, and then, of course, to the west, you have the Cumberland Plateau. And we're on the very western edge of the Tennessee side of the Appalachians, so they're not quite as huge as they get closer the farther east you go. But I guess they call it the foothills, maybe. We call it the foothills around here. There's some pretty high ridges, some pretty steep places, but it's nothing like the Smokies or Western North Carolina. So, it's
Right.
just a lot of small towns and stuff like that.
Sure. And plenty of cover and plenty
Oh,
of
yeah.
food and water for something like that to exist.
Yeah, lots. I mean, it's a wonderful place. So if anything wanted to live there and stay hidden, it could very easily do it. Um, these creatures could easily traverse through a neighborhood and not be seen because you have creeks and you have gullies and all these things where people don't clean those out and the trees are growing high and at night they could just walk right through and nobody would ever see them.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah. Tell me this. What is one of the encounters that sticks out besides your sons of your family more than any other?
oh, um, I would guess it'd have to be my sister's story. Her and her family were driving. I forget the road. I forget the state road, but there's a place here really close in Anderson in Rowan County. It's called the Y-12 Security Complex. It's part of the Oak Ridge Reservation. In World War II, the plutonium and uranium, the stuff that goes in the atomic bombs, it was produced here. So it's a large piece of property that has been fenced off, and it's guarded by officers to keep people out. But there is a road that travels through there. It's a public road. They couldn't completely shut it off, I suppose, or they finally opened it up. It goes from Lenoir City to Oak Ridge, and her family were driving that road at night, heading back from Lenoir City, and they come around a curve. And my sister said that there was this thing. She didn't know what it was. Now it wasn't huge by any stretch. She said it was about 4 feet tall, but it was skinny and mangy, and its hands almost touched the ground. And it was standing on the side of the road just looking at them as they passed. Um, I could guess she described it as kinda like an ape, but it was very emaciated. It wasn't healthy, and it just had this look on its face, almost like, "Either get away or help me," something like that. It was just a very odd thing that they all saw, and every one of them saw it. They don't talk about it much, but, they've told me she has told me about it, and, of course, her kids won't tell me much about it, but, um, was that a Bigfoot? I think it was. I think it was a young Sasquatch that was in the area. A lot of people say they have seen these things on this reservation, near this reservation, and I could imagine it's a really good place for them to hide because nobody goes in there.
Yeah, it sounds like that particular area. Is it north of where you're at?
Uh, I live in Clinton now, so it would probably be, I would say, west southwest from me,
Okay.
probably about
Okay.
maybe 15 miles from my house. Yeah,
Okay. Right. And she got a good look at it.
she did.
Sounds like
She did.
details and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That
So,
so she doesn't talk about that much, she said.
no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't want to talk about it. And most of the people that have had encounters don't like talking about it. They really don't. They trust some people just because they get the opportunity, but I'd say there's probably for every sighting that's reported to me, there's probably 5 more that no one talks about around here, in my opinion.
Right. Are there any recent sightings that you have had reported to you?
And nothing recent, no. Usually there are things that happen usually in the spring and the fall. I'm expecting things to pick up around my area, and I mean initial really close to my home, within the next month or so. But there is a place, just north of me in Anderson County that tends to have a lot of activity in the fall and the spring. Sightings, livestock issues, things come up missing, livestock comes up dead with no apparent wounds, no apparent reason for it to be laying there dead. Um, if it was a predator, obviously it would have at least left a bite mark or something somewhere on the body, and that's not happening. It's just strange stuff going on.
Right.
So,
That you brought that up. I was going to ask you that question as well. I was wondering if there were certain times of the year or weather that you see more activity.
weather, no, I've never been able to put any kind of correlation with weather. Um, and even I've had reports of daytime sightings. just broad daylight. But most of the sightings were in the evening or dead of night, and everything um, that has been reported to me that was even, just a few years ago, um, has been spring and fall. And of course, I get people giving me emails and giving me calls about something that happened to them 50 years ago. I get that kind of stuff as well. So I like talking to people about it. I like to be able for them to vent to me and just get it off their chest. That's probably the main reason I do this now, is just to hear the stories because I love them so much. But yeah, overall that time, I start getting some opinions and some ideas when I start piecing all these stories together and all these reports and trying to find things that are common with all of them. And then some things that kind of stand off as weird, I'll kind of put that in the back of my head and wait for that to happen again. And then I'll start thinking, okay, once is one thing, two might be a coincidence, but if I hear it 4 or 5 times, there may be something to it. So,
Sure. Yeah, that's I wasn't sure about I figured about the season, I guess you have when you said livestock, calves, you have the spring
yes.
calves and that sort of thing. So I guess yeah, if some of that comes up missing or dead and there's no explanation for it, uh, has any of the reports that have talked about livestock, did they mention or bring up Bigfoot with that or
Well,
evidence of it?
I have seen some evidence on a property, that the farming property where some of this has taken place. Um, it was a strange little story about some people that had this farm, and them specifically talking about a calf that came up dead. The dogs were going crazy one night, and they heard the calf just letting out this shriek kind of thing, and its mom was bellowing and just going crazy with it. And they all went outside and started looking down into the pasture field to see what was going on. They had their flashlights and everything, and they couldn't really get a good look at anything at the moment. And then all of a sudden, they heard this big crack, just a huge, just crack. And then it got really quiet. And they just, okay, we don't know what it was. We'll just, there's no shrieking now. There's no bellowing. We probably got a dead calf. We'll go check it out in the morning. Something got it and took it off or whatever. They write that up. Sometimes it just happens and they deal with it. But the next morning, they went down there into the pasture field, and there was a fence whose whose main post, the starting post, was made out of a cross tie, and the calf was laying right next to the cross tie. No blood, no scratches, no wounds of any kind, but it was laying there dead on that cross tie. And they believe whatever it was that was trying to take that calf slapped that calf's head up against that uh, cross tie, and that
And
was the
broke
crack. Broke its
that's the
neck
crack they heard.
or or gave it such a brain injury or something like that. Now that was their thought because they had issues with seeing things and other things going up missing and finding tracks. I've actually found a few tracks on their property. I can send you one of those when we get off here. It's a very strange track, actually. Um, it looks like a broken foot. So
Really?
yeah,
Very,
it's strange.
very
Very
interesting.
strange. I don't want to get too deep into any of these other cryptid subjects. I don't really know what this thing was, but it's interesting. Very,
Yeah,
very interesting.
I'd like to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there, of course, and I'm not going to dive off in that, but there are. I've heard of other cryptids
Yeah.
in East Tennessee and Western North
Right.
Carolina. So
Yeah.
but so there were no puncture wounds on the calf
None.
from just say a mountain lion or
Mm.
a coyote or something like that. But
Right.
it that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I guess if
Yeah.
you and that's the thing with Bigfoot research, and I know you know this. You have pieces of a puzzle
Mhm.
and you just start putting those pieces together and
Yeah.
what do you come up with?
Right.
Tracks,
Mhm.
the sounds, the vocalizations, or what have you.
Mm.
What do you think? Let me ask you this, Matt. What do you think about wood knocks or rock clacks?
I don't know exactly what they're doing to get that. I have heard wood knocks. I guess there would be wood knocks. I don't believe they were rocks clacking, but they could have been. Um, there are some folks that think that's actually that's a noise they make when they beat on their chest, like an ape, like a gorilla or something. They can make that loud pop on their chest, but nobody's proven that. But anyway, um, I really don't know about why they do what they do. I mean, I'm sure that between themselves is probably just a way of communicating, "Hey, I'm over here. Hey, you're over there." Maybe, I mean, we think of some kind of rudimentary language. They may be, 2 knocks is everything's cool, 3 knocks is somebody's in the woods, that kind of thing. Um, I don't do that kind of thing when I go out in the woods. I'm not trying to attract them with wood knocks because I don't know what it means. I'm afraid they might be thinking, "Okay, he wants to party." So I'm not gonna try to mess with those kinds of things. I don't I'm not going in there to cause them any trouble. So,
Right. Have you ever heard any vocalizations or any wood knocks yourself?
I have heard wood knocks. I was going through a little valley on a creek, uh, probably well, as the crow flies, probably 10 miles from my home right now, but it was at a long before I ever really, um, got deep into it. I was walking the creek and I heard a tree knock to my left, and then just a few minutes later, I heard it to my right, and the one on the left was closer because it was right there at the edge of the mountain as it went up, but on the right side of me as I was walking, it was farther off because the mountain was probably 4 or 500 yards before it started moving up, before it started growing. Um, and that during that whole time, I mean, it just happened once, 2 knocks on one side, 2 knocks on the other. And then, as I was walking on through, I found a downed tree, and I kid you not, man, there were 5 white mushrooms laying in a row on that log. And I thought, "Okay, this is strange. What animal does that on occasion?" One of them had a small bite taken out of it, which could have been anything. But the fact that they were stacked, they weren't growing out of the log. They were just stacked there, side by side in a row. So I took one of the mushrooms and I left an apple and I left. So I don't know whatever came of the apple, but I knew that that was just an odd thing. I can't really say it was Bigfoot related, but I can't imagine just your average woodland creature doing that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Something with
it's really
intelligence had to
yeah,
do that.
yeah, it's really strange. Yes,
Yeah.
if they're, I was thinking when you first said that they were growing on the tree, but yeah, if they're laying there
They were just like
side by side, yeah, that's something put them there, and that's really odd.
and, as far as you mentioned, vocalizations, I don't wanna I know a lot of people laugh when I tell people this, and I kindly crack joke about it too, but that same summer when my son had his encounter, it just a few weeks later where I was whistled at by I'm believe it was the same one. It was just out of my eyesight in the darkness on a fence line, and, of course, I was not gonna go over that way. It's probably 50 yards away, but there is a whistle, I believe, Ron Moorhead recordings have that whistle, and it was exactly like that. It was just exactly like that. It had some different tones before and after, but that initial whistle that it just yeah, I knew what it was. There was no way around it, and, at the time, I smoked, and I was on my back deck smoking a cigarette, and I threw that thing down and went in the house, because it's just it's creepy, man. It really is.
Right. We had, our neighbor, which lives on our family land across the road, so it's probably a tenth of a mile from us, recorded. howls or roars, and in the middle of that, it was a wood knock,
Yeah.
and the last, I guess, roar, was followed by, like, a whoop, but the whoop sounded to me, and even to him, like it was a different position than the roar,
Okay.
almost like the wood knock had communicated, that was a way of communicating with the other one. It sounded like 2. That's what I was getting at, and I've got the recording. I may send that to you just to let yeah, if you wanna listen to it.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
yeah.
it's about a 45-second recording, and he had, uh, kinda like you, he could not sleep, and he had walked out on his, front porch, about 2 or 3 in the morning and to smoke, or to either get fresh air, I can't remember exactly, and he heard a whoop, and he walked back in. You can hear during the recording, he walked back in the front door, and you could hear as he cut the recorder on or his camera on to record, hit the door open and him walking on the wooden deck, and you hear a loud howl, and then a wood knock about 15 seconds in, and then a couple of grunts and a roar, and it is just it's I've had it analyzed, and it was no known forest creature, uh,
Yeah.
and no, they determined that it was not faked at all, and then you can tell by and I know you know this too, you can tell by talking to somebody, the emotion that someone
Oh,
has
yeah.
when they had an encounter.
Yeah. How far did he estimate it was from where he was at the time?
He thought the loudest roar was about 50 yards from him.
Okay.
Fairly,
That's
not too far away.
not too far. That's supposedly pretty darn loud because I've been told that they really get loud.
It's
So
I've listened to that recording so many times. It just still it baffles me now.
yeah.
It's just amazing to hear it. But yeah, I'll send that to you and
Yeah.
take a listen and see what you think. Um, Matt, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
I introduced you as an author. Tell us about the book you have written, Bigfoot Perspectives from the Foothills of Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I've had it out for I guess it's been a year now, a little over a year. I had been trying to write a book for a very long time. Well, my wife was encouraging me to do so because I had heard so many stories and I had looked into this subject so much. It's something I knew a little bit about, a very little bit. And I decided to go ahead and just keep working on it, keep working on it. And I'd worked on it about 2 years, just off and on, and there was very little getting done. And I was contacted by a fellow named C.L. Gammon from Deep Red Press out in Lafayette, Tennessee. He had had a podcast himself several years before, and I didn't even remember him as, being on a podcast with him. And he's a publisher, and he contacted me and asked me if I had written any books or if I was contemplating writing a book. And it just so happened, yeah, I've been off and on one for quite a while. So he said, "Could you get me one written up? I'd like to take a look at it, and maybe we can publish you." And I said, "Sure, I'll do my best." And for the next several months, I worked on it, and I really worked on it, and just kept pounding away at it until I had it done, and they liked it enough where they published it. So it wasn't self published or anything. It was actually accepted by Deep Red Press, and that's the story. It's 85 pages long. It talks a little bit about my childhood and some of the things that happened when I was young that I didn't realize may have been Bigfoot related. Some of the things about my grandpa and things like that. And then it goes into the different ideas of who and what Bigfoot may be, because there's all kinds of ideas. It goes from left field, right field. It's out there. Some of the stuff is really out there, and I just wanted to try to give perspectives of as many of those as I could remember off the top of my head because I didn't want to have to go and use someone else's research to write in my book. Everything that I wrote was just off the cuff from my mind, from the things that I had read and heard and the reports that I had gathered. So Yeah, it's simple. It's supposedly maybe a 2.5 hour read. It's kind of like an introduction for people who aren't really involved with Bigfoot, maybe, and then there might be some aspects of it that the more learned person might find interesting.
Right. Yeah, I will
So
put a link in the description at the bottom
yeah,
uh,
appreciate it.
for the book, and it sounds like it'll be a good read. I'm gonna have to check it out myself.
Okay.
That sounds like I like to hear stories, so that sounds like something I'd
Yeah,
like to dive
there's a few
to.
good ones in there.
Yeah. Uh, Let me ask you this, Matt, as well. What would you tell a skeptic?
A skeptic, I mean, I don't know really what I would tell that kind of person because they've already made up their mind based on their own research. I would think if they're a skeptic, but somebody who just simply doesn't believe off the streets, are friends of mine, for example, who will give me a really hard time when they see me and they talk, you seen Bigfoot lately? And they laugh and they cut up. And
Yeah.
for those kind of people, I could easily say, do some research, look it up, read some stories. Don't listen to everything that the media tells you. Now, for a skeptic, of course, that's some people are just they're bound and determined that they're not real, and they're not gonna believe until they encounter it themselves. So, if I'm not gonna get into an argument or a debate with someone who's just absolutely convinced that they don't exist based on their own it's that's not there's no point in that, because honestly, I don't have anything other than what I can say and what I can point to that's any kind of evidence. I can't prove they exist. I don't have there's nothing in my book, there's nothing in my mind, there's no research that I've done or anything that I've experienced that could convince anybody else that these things are real. I know they're real based on what I've learned and the things that have happened in my family. And one of the main things is my mom would not have lied to me about something like this. I'm convinced. I'm 100% convinced they're real. I just don't know who they are, what they are, where they're from, what they're about, how they do what they do, why they not, why they've never been um, captured, studied. And again, there are those who think they already have, and the powers that be are keeping that secret from us.
Yeah. Do you think the government knows that they exist?
I do. I believe they do. I don't think they can not know. Um, the military is they have capabilities we can't even begin to imagine. Yeah, I think they know they exist. I think that at some point they may have even interacted with them. I've heard some pretty I've listened to some podcasts over the years and there were some pretty devastating kind of things going on in some of these where the military was sent out to kill them and eradicate a certain clan of these Bigfoot who were causing problems in a small town. Or you never hear about that stuff on TV. You never hear about that kind of stuff in the news. Whether or not it's true, again, I can't say yay or nay on it. So, but it's interesting to ponder for sure.
Yes. Yes, I have a couple of friends that are they're skeptics and they ask me, pick at me, "Hey, where have you found Bigfoot or you still looking for Bigfoot?" and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, just, listening to the stories like you
Mhm.
said and putting pieces together, there's just no other explanation, and you're gonna have people that, yeah, are gonna embellish or maybe even misidentification,
Right.
but
Oh yeah,
some of
sure.
these people don't want any publicity, and,
Right.
you can tell, like I said earlier, talking to them that they are actually genuine about what they're telling you.
Yeah. Have you imagine you why would anybody tell a story about Bigfoot knowing that 9 out of 10 people is gonna think they're stupid, crazy, off their rocker, drunk, on drugs, who knows? Um, I've I understand that people who are in law enforcement, if they have an encounter, they keep their mouth shut because they could lose their job. I've heard the same thing from military where, something happens, something goes down, and, they're told that they better be quiet or they'll be under the jail, that kinda thing. Of course, a lot of that comes from podcasts, but when you think about all the people that say that are talking about these things, and it's always the same, you have to put something into that because even if it's a far fetched story, there's got to be some truth in it because they know that the military's encountering things that we don't know anything about. They're trying to keep the peace where there is no peace, and I believe that they're just as deep in it as anyone else. I believe the scientific community's in it. I think there's some aspects of this subject that could probably turn history up on its ear, kind of thing. And they don't want us to know some of this stuff because the way it would affect society as a whole. It is. It's not just a simple fact that there's something hairy running around in the woods. There are a lot of implications involved with the discovery, the official discovery of these beings. What does that mean? What would that mean for society? What does that mean for the tree industry? What does it mean for the roads and the interstates and all this other stuff? I mean, it would make a big deal out of it. It would get to be a really big deal.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Matt, I have enjoyed the conversation with you. It's been really interesting, and I have thoroughly enjoyed your stories. And at the end of each episode, we do a rapid fire Q&A. I'll ask
Okay.
you 3 questions. It's just casual, and it's just the
Okay.
first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. Favorite cryptid other than Bigfoot?
Loch Ness.
Okay. Nessie.
Yeah.
And we have one of our own too, or a couple actually.
Anyway, what there's Champ up north.
Camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Camp and
Ogopogo.
Ogopogo. Yes. Yeah. And there may be another one in there somewhere. I'm not thinking of. All right. Favorite Bigfoot TV show, past or present?
Mysterious Monsters.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Close second, but the $6 million Man with, who was it? Lou Ferrigno?
Yes.
I don't remember exactly, but
I
yeah,
believe
I
you're
love
right. I
that.
think that's who it was. I believe it was Lou
Yeah.
Ferrigno. And if it's not, please somebody comments
Yeah.
hello and let us know who it was. Yeah. What about any of
Just let me
the?
know. Maybe Andre the Giant?
You know
I don't
what it
know.
could have been?
Yeah, I
This
just don't
when Andre
remember.
the Giant. I don't remember either. Lou Ferrigno was pretty popular in the
Yeah,
70s. So, and that's the time frame, late 70s, I believe. So,
right, right.
yeah. Are there any of the TV series shows in the past or present that you used to watch with the Bigfoot show?
I watched Finding Bigfoot, and I was actually, on an episode of Finding Bigfoot back in 2014.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, I enjoyed the show.
Yeah. I was super excited when that show came out, and I think
Yeah.
I DVR'd every episode and had those for quite a long time. So,
Right.
all right. Last one. If you had one meal to eat from now on, what would it be?
Pizza.
Pizza. Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. You can't go wrong with pizza.
Nah, you change it up.
Yes. Yes, you can. Yeah.
So,
Well, good deal. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking your time and coming on the show.
thank you, Mark. I appreciate it
Yeah,
very much.
absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoyed it. And for the listeners, if you've had an encounter, something strange or unexplained, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening to the Cryptid Crew podcast, and God bless.